Hello everyone, in this session I am going to discuss the summary of Beowulf. Beowulf is the earliest and greatest epic or heroic poem in our literature. It begins with a prologue, which is not an essential part of the story, but which we revive gladly for the sake of the splendid poetical conception that produced Kyle, king of the Spear Danes. At a time when Spear Danes were without a king, a ship came sailing into their harbour. It was filled with treasures and weapons of war, and in the midst of these warlike things was a baby sleeping. No man sailed the ship, it came of itself, bringing the child whose name was Skyle. Now Skyle grew and became a mighty warrior and led the Spear Danes for many years and was their king. When his son Beowulf had become strong and wise enough to rule, then wild fate, who speaks but once to any man, came and took at hand, and it was time for Skyle to go. This is how they buried him. Then Skyle departed at word of wide spoken, the hero to go to the home of the gods. Sadly, they bore him to brink on the ocean. Comrades still heeding his word of command, they rowed in the harbour, the prince's ship ready. With prow curving proudly and shining sails set, shipward they bore him, their hero beloved. The mighty they led at the foot of the mast. Treasures were there from far and near gathered. Binds of battle, armour and swords. Never an eel sailed out a harbour so splendidly tricked with the trapping of war. They heaped on his bosom a hoard of bright jewel to fare with him forth on the flood's great priest. No less gift they gave than the unknown provided. When alone as a child he came in from the mere, high o'er his hand waved a bright golden standard. Now let the waves bear their wealth to the home. Sad souled they gave back its gift to the ocean. Mournful their mood as he sailed out to sea. And no man sees the poet, neither counselor nor hero, who received that laddie. One of Skyle's descent was Hrothgar, king of the Danes, and with him the story of our Beowulf began. Hrothgar, in his old age, had built near the sea a mead hall called Harret, the most splendid hall in the whole world, where the king and his thanes gathered nightly to feast and to listen to the songs of his gleemen. One night, as they were all sleeping, a frightful monster, Grendel, broke into the hall, killed 30 of the sleeping warriors, and carried off their bodies to devour them in the lair under the sea. And the appalling visit was speedily repeated, and fear and death regained in the great hall. The warriors fought at first but fled when they discovered that no weapon could harm the monster. Harriet was left deserted and silent for 12 winters. Grendel's horrible raids continued, and joy was changed to mourning among the Spear Danes. At last, the rumor of Grendel crossed over the sea to the land of the Geats, where a young hero dwelt in the house of his uncle, King Hygelac. Beowulf was his name, a man of immense strength and courage, and a mighty swimmer who had developed his powers fighting the knickers, whales, verses, and seals in the ice-bound northern ocean. When he heard the story, Beowulf was stirred to go and fight the monster and free the Danes, who were his father's friends. With 14 companions, he crossed the sea. There is an excellent bit of ocean poetry, and we get a vivid idea of the hospitality of a brave people by following the poet's description of Beowulf. mating with King Herthogar and Queen Beltho, and of the joy and feasting and storytelling in Harriet. The picture of Wealhtheow passing the mead cup to the warriors with her own hand is a noble one, and plainly indicates the reverence paid by these strong men to their wives and mothers. Night comes on, the fear of Grendel is again upon the Danes, and all withdraw after the king has warned Beowulf of the frightful danger of sleeping in the hall. But Beowulf lies down with his warriors, saying proudly that with him bare-handed and trust to a warrior's stand. Forth from the fens and from the misty moorland, Grendel came gliding, God's wreath he bore. Grendel on the 18 giant race, the death shadow, he marks Tolkar. The shadow ganger is also variously called God's foe, find of hell, Cain's brood, etc. It need hardly be explained that the later terms are additions to the original poem, made probably by monks who copied the manuscript. A belief in weird of the epic that in line 1056 we find a curious blending of pagan and Christian belief, where Wide is withstood by the wise god, came under clouds until he saw clearly, glittering with gold plates and the mead hall of men. Down fell the door, though fastened with fire bands. Open it sprang at the stroke of his paw. Swollen with rage, burst in the bell bringer, flamed in his eyes a firelight, likest fire. At the sight of men again sleeping in the hall, Grendel laughs in his heart, thinking of his feast. He seizes the nearest sleeper, crushes his bone case with a bite, tears him limb from limb, and swallow him. Then he creeps to the couch of Beowulf and stretches out a claw, only to find it clutch in a grip of steel. A sudden terror strikes the monster's heart. He roars, struggles, tries to jerk him free, but Beowulf leaps to his feet and grapples his enemy barehanded. To and fro they surge. Tables are overturned, golden benches ripped from their fastings. The whole building quakes, and only its iron bands keep it from falling to pieces. Beowulf's companions are on their feet now, hacking vainly at the monster with swords and battles, adding their shouts to the crashing of the furniture and the howling poor soul of Grendel. Outside in the town, the Danes stand shivering at the uproar. Slowly, the monsters struggle to the door, dragging Beowulf, whose fingers crack with the strain, but who never relaxes first grip. Suddenly, a wide wound open in the monster's side. The sinews snap, the whole arm is wrenched off at the shoulder, and Grendel escapes, shrinking across the moor and plunges into the sea to die. Beowulf first exults in his night's work, then he hangs the hug harm with its terrible claws from a cross beam over the king's seat, as one would hang up a bear's skin after a hunt. At daylight came the Danes, and all day long, in the intervals of singing, storytelling, speech making, and gift giving, they returned to wonder at the mighty grip of Grendel and to rejoice in Beowulf's victory. But when night falls, a great feast is spread in Harad, and the Danes sleep once more in the great hall. At midnight comes another monster, a horrible, half human creature, mother of Grendel. Ragging to avenge her offspring, she thunders at the door. The Danes leap up and grasp their weapons, but the monster enters, seizes Asgeir, who is friend and advisor of the king, and rushes away with him over the fence. The old scenes of sorrow are revived in the morning, but Beowulf says simply, "Sorrow not, wise man. It is better for each that his friend he avenge than that he mourn much. Each of us shall the end await of worldly life. Let him who may gain honor ere death, that is for a warrior. When he is dead, afterwards best. Arise, kingdom's guardian, let us quickly go to view the track of Grendel's kinsman. I promise it thee, he will not escape, nor in earth's bosom, nor in mountain wood, nor in ocean's depth, go where he will." Then he girds himself for the new fight and follows the track of the second enemy across the fens. Here is Hathoga's description of the place where live the monsters, spirit of elsewhere, as he calls them. They inhabit the dim land that gives shelter to the wolf, the windly headlands Pearl's Fin Pass, where under mountain mist the stream flows down and floods the ground. Not far hence, but a mile, the mere stands over which hang death chill groves. A wood fast rooted overshades the flood. There every night a ghastly miracle is seen. Fire in the water, no man knows, not the most wise, the bottom of that mere, the fame horned heath stalker, the hearth when pressed wearied by hounds and hunted from afar, will rather die of thirst upon its bank than bend his hand to it. It is unholy. Dark to the clouds, its yeasty waves mount up. When wind stirs hateful tempest till the air grows dreary and the heavens pour down tears. Beowulf plunges into the horrible place while his companions wait for him on the shore. For a long time he sinks through the flood. Then, as he reaches bottom, Grendel's mother rushes out upon him and drags him into a cave where sea monsters swarm at him from behind and gnash his armor with their tusks. The edge of his sword is turned with the mighty blow he deals the merry whiff, but it harms not the monster. Casting the weapon aside, he grips her and tries to hurl her down, while her claws and teeth clash upon his corselet but cannot penetrate the steel rings. She throws her bulk upon him, crushes him down, draws a short sword, and plunges it at him. But again, splendid Byrne save him. He is weird now and oppressed. Suddenly, as his eye sweeps the cave, he catches sight of a magic sword made by the giant long ago, too heavy for warriors to wield. Struggling up, he seizes the weapon, wields it, and brings down a crashing blow upon the monster's neck. It smashes through the ring bones, the mere whiff falls, and the fight is won. The cave is full of treasures, but Beowulf heeds them not, for near him lies Grendel, dead from the wound received the previous night. Again Beowulf swings the great sword and strikes off his enemy's head, and as the venomous blood touches the sword blade, the steel melts like ice before the fire, and only the hilt is left in Beowulf's hand. Taking the hilt and the head, the hero enters the ocean and mounts up to the shore. Only his own faithful band were waiting there, for the Danes, seeing the ocean bubble with fresh blood, thought it was all over with the hero and had gone home. And there they were mourning in Harrod when Beowulf returned with the monstrous head of Grendel carried on a spear shaft by four of its stoutest followers. In the last part of the poem, There is another great fight. Beowulf is now an old man. He has regained for 50 years, beloved by all his people. He has overcome every enemy but once a fire dragon keeping watch over an enormous treasure hidden among the mountains. One day, a wanderer stumbles upon the enchanted cave and, entering, takes a jeweled cup while the fire drake sleeps heavily. That same night, the dragon, in a frightful rage, blanching forth fire and smoke, rushes down upon the nearest villages, leaving a trail of death and terror behind him. Again, Beowulf goes forth to campaign his people. As he approaches the dragon's cave, he has presentiment that death lurks within. Set on the headland there, the warrior king, farewell, he said to Earth companions, true the gold friend of the geese, his mind was sad, death ready, restless, and great was drawing night. Who now must meet and touch the aged man to seek the treasure that his soul had saved and separate his body from his life. There is a flash of illumination like that which comes to a dying man, in which his mind runs back over his long life and sees something of profound meaning in the elementary sorrow moving side by side with magnificent courage. Then follows the fight with the fire drake, in which Beowulf, wrapped in fire and smoke, is helped by the heroism of Wiglaf, one of his companions. The dragon is slain, but the fire has entered Beowulf's lungs and he knows that Wide is at hand. This is his thought. While Wiglaf removes his battered armor, one deep regret I have, that to a son I may not give the armor I have worn. To bear it after me for 50 years, I ruled these people well, and not a king. Of those who dwell around me dared oppress or meet me with his hordes at home, I waited. For the time that wide controls mine own I kept, nor quarrel sought nor ever falsely swore. Now wounded sore I wait for joy to come. He sets Wiglaf into the fire drake's cave, who finds it filled with rare treasures and, most wonderful of all, a golden banner from which light proceeds and illumines all the darkness. But Wiglaf cares little for the treasure. His mind is full of his dying chief. He fills his hand with costly ornaments and hurries to throw them at his hero's feet. The old man looks with sorrow at the gold, thanks the Lord of all that by death he has gained more richness for his people, and tells his faithful Thane how his body shall be buried or burned on the vales, ness, or headland. My life is well paid for this hoard, and now care for the people's need. I may no more be with them. Bid the warriors raise a barrow after the burning on the ness by the sea or horness, which shall rise high and be for a remembrance to my people. Seafarers who from afar over the midst of fates drive foaming keels may call it Beowulf's Mount. Hereafter then the hero from his neck put off a golden collar to his thane, to the young warrior gave it with helm, amulet, and corset, bade him us use them well. Thou art the last and beginning of our race, for fate has swept my kinsmen all away. Earls in their strength are to their maker gone, and I must follow them. Beowulf was still living when Wiglaf sent a messenger hurriedly to his people. When they came, they found him dead, and the hugged dragon dead on the sand beside him. Then the gods' people reared a mighty pile, which shields and armor hung as he had asked, And in the midst of the warrior laid their lord lamenting. Then the warriors on the mount kindled a mighty bale fire. The smoke rose black from the Swedish pine. The sound of flame mingled with sound of weeping, while smoke spread over heaven. Then upon the hill the people of the Widders brought a mound, high, broad, and to be seen far out at sea. In 10 days they had built and walled it in, as the wise thought most worthy placed in it, rings, jewels, other treasures from the hoard. They left the richest golden joy of earls in dust for earth to hold, where yet it lies useless as ever. Then about the mound the warriors rode and raised a mournful song for their dead king, exalted his brave deeds, holding it fit man honor their lord, praise him and love him when his soul is fleet. Thus the Geats people, sharers of his heart, mourn their chief's fall, praise him of kings of men, the mildest and the kindest, and to all his people gentlest earning for their praise. One is tempted to linger over the details of the magnificent ending, the unselfish heroism of Beowulf, the great prototype of King Alfred, the generous grief of his people ignoring gold and jewels in the thought of the greater treasure they had lost, the memorial mound on the low cliff which would cause every returning mariner to steer a straight course to harbor in the remembrance of his death hero, and the pure poetry which marks every noble line. But the epic is great enough and simple enough to speak for itself. Search the literatures of the world, and you will find no other such pictures of a brave man's death. So that's all for today's session. Thank you so much for listening so peacefully.